The midday sun glares over a bustling shopping mall in Memphis, Tennessee, its glass facade reflecting a kaleidoscope of light. Shoppers weave through the crowd, bags swinging, voices rising in a hum of commerce. A black man, Malcolm Reed, 42, strides confidently through the atrium, his tailored blazer unbuttoned, a leather satchel slung over his shoulder. His eyes are sharp, his posture commanding, a faint scar tracing his temple from a distant memory. He pauses at a store window, inspecting a display of watches, his reflection steady in the glass. A shadow moves behind him, subtle but deliberate. Officer Gregory Holt, 50s, white, with a paunch and a suspicious squint, trails Malcolm from a distance, his hand resting on his holster. Holt's radio crackles faintly, his gaze locked on Malcolm's every move. Malcolm senses the scrutiny, his jaw tightening, but he continues browsing, selecting a tie from a rack, his fingers deliberate. Holt edges closer, his boots scuffing the polished floor, his presence a weight in the air. Shoppers glance over, their faces a mix of curiosity and unease. Malcolm heads toward an escalator, his satchel brushing his side. Holt follows, his stride quickening, his hand now gripping his radio. A young black man, Darius, 20s, with a quick wit and a phone in hand, notices the scene from a nearby coffee kiosk. Darius pulls out his phone, recording, his hand steady but his eyes wary. Holt's gaze flicks to Darius, his face hardening. Malcolm steps off the escalator, pausing at a bookstore, but Holt closes the gap, his shadow looming. Malcolm turns, hands visible, his expression calm but guarded. Holt's hand twitches toward his cuffs, his posture aggressive. The mall's noise fades as Holt shoves Malcolm against a pillar, the marble cold against his palms. Metal cuffs snap around Malcolm's wrists, biting into his skin. Darius keeps filming, his phone capturing every angle, his resolve unshaken. Shoppers gather, their murmurs rising, phones emerging like a silent jury. Holt glares at Darius, his face reddening, but Darius doesn't flinch. Malcolm's eyes meet Darius's, a silent understanding passing between them. Holt yanks Malcolm toward a security office, the crowd parting, their anger simmering. The door slams shut and the screen fades to black. Title card: the cops suspected him at the mall, then he was the chief of police. Malcolm sits on a metal chair in a cramped security office, his blazer rumpled, his satchel confiscated and open on a desk. The air is thick with the scent of stale coffee and tension. His hands rest on his knees, fingers tracing the scar on his temple. The door swings open and Deputy Lucia Mendoza, 30s, Latina, with a steady gaze and a notepad, steps inside. Malcolm rises, smoothing his shirt, his resolve unbroken. He adjusts his watch, a quiet act of defiance, and follows Lucia out, his eyes burning with purpose. A younger Malcolm, 20s, stands in a gritty Memphis neighborhood, his police uniform crisp but his face heavy with doubt. A teenage girl, 15, black, is cuffed against a chain-link fence, her eyes wide with fear. A crowd gathers, their shouts a cacophony of rage. Malcolm steps forward, his hand raised to calm them, but a senior officer, 50s, white, shoves him back, his glare sharp. The girl's mother wails, her voice piercing. Malcolm's face tightens, his fists clenching. He turns away, his badge glinting in the sunlight, a decision forming in his mind. Malcolm strides into the police chief's office, a modern space with city views and a polished desk. His chief's badge is pinned to his suit, its weight a constant reminder. Sergeant Javier Torres, 40s, Latino, with a warm smile and sharp eyes, hands him a coffee. Malcolm sits, studying a file labeled Community Policing Reforms. His phone buzzes, a text from an unknown number flashing on the screen. He deletes it, his jaw tightening. The office hums with activity, but Malcolm's focus is unwavering. Javier points to a stack of officer complaints, his expression grim. Malcolm flips through them, his eyes narrowing at Holt's name, a pattern emerging. A restless crowd gathers outside the Memphis police headquarters, their signs bold with demands for reform. Darius stands at the forefront, showing his phone footage to reporters, his hands steady now. Malcolm exits the building, Lucia at his side, cameras flashing like lightning. The crowd surges, their cheers a tidal wave. In the distance, Holt watches from his patrol car, his knuckles white on the steering wheel, his face a mask of resentment. A younger officer, 20s, white, sits beside him, his eyes darting nervously. Malcolm's gaze sweeps the crowd, landing on Darius. He nods, a silent pact forming. Malcolm stands before a room of officers, their faces a mix of skepticism and curiosity. A whiteboard lists new policies: mandatory body cams, community outreach programs, and de-escalation training. Officer Carter, 50s, white with a skeptical frown, crosses his arms, his posture defiant. Carter shifts, his jaw tight, but remains silent. Lucia hands Malcolm a file, her expression tense. Malcolm scans it, his face hardening, a report on Holt's history of complaints. He sets it down, his resolve deepening, the room's tension palpable. Malcolm sits alone in his office, staring at a faded photo of himself and the teenage girl from Memphis, their smiles frozen in time. His phone buzzes again, another unknown number. He deletes it, his fingers lingering on the screen. A knock at the door. Darius enters, clutching a USB drive, his face pale. Malcolm plugs it into his laptop, the screen flickering with grainy footage. Holt and Carter in a deserted lot, exchanging cash with a shady figure, their movements furtive. Malcolm leans back, his mind racing. Darius's eyes are fierce, his hands steady. Malcolm's gaze turns wary, a warning in his expression. Darius drives along a winding road, his phone buzzing with notifications. Headlights flare behind him, harsh and unrelenting. A truck roars up, tailgating, its engine a menacing growl. Darius's hands tighten on the wheel as he accelerates, but the truck matches his speed. A hand leans out, tossing something. A brick smashes through his windshield, glass shattering. Darius swerves, tires screeching as the truck peels off into the night. His car skids into a ditch, steam hissing from the hood. Darius lies in a hospital bed, bandaged but awake, his eyes defiant. Malcolm sits beside him, his face a storm of fury and guilt. He grips Darius's hand, his touch steady. He steps into the hall, pulling out his phone, his expression darkening as he makes a call. His scar catches the fluorescent light, a reminder of battles fought. Malcolm stands before Commissioner Robert Flynn, 60s, white, with a polished demeanor and cold eyes. Holt and Carter linger nearby, their faces smug, dressed in civilian clothes. Malcolm stands firm, unflinching. Carter steps forward, holding a file, his smirk sharp. Malcolm's eyes flash, but his composure holds. Flynn raises a hand, his expression dismissive. Malcolm walks out, leaving Carter's smugness faltering. The city festival pulses with life, lights twinkling, music rising above the hum of the crowd. Malcolm, in a casual jacket, walks with his sister in her 30s and her daughter Zoe 10, their faces bright with joy. Zoe tugs at Malcolm's hand, her eyes wide with wonder. Nia pulls Malcolm aside, her expression clouded with worry. Malcolm hugs her, his embrace fierce. A shot cracks through the air, sharp and sudden. The crowd screams, scattering like leaves in a storm. Malcolm shields Zoe, his eyes scanning the chaos. A figure in a hoodie sprints into an alley, a shadow among the buildings. Malcolm hands Zoe to Nia and bolts after the figure, his heart pounding. Malcolm races through the narrow alley, crates and trash cans blurring past, the figure just ahead. He tackles them, pinning a young man, 20s, white, to the ground. It's Jake, a local with a rap sheet, his face twisted with defiance. Malcolm restrains him, his breath ragged, his mind racing. His phone buzzes, Lucia's name on the screen. Malcolm answers, his eyes locked on Jake, realization dawning like a storm breaking. Malcolm storms into the precinct, Lucia and Darius at his side. He slaps a stack of financial records onto a desk, the sound sharp in the tense silence. Officers and clerks gather, their murmurs rising. Carter stands, his face red with fury and lunges. Malcolm sidesteps, pinning him to the wall with practiced ease. Holt draws his gun, but Lucia's faster, her weapon trained on him. Holt hesitates, then lowers his gun. Deputies cuff them both, the clink of metal echoing. A new crowd gathers outside the precinct, their cheers resounding as Malcolm exits. Darius's video plays on a news van screen, its images stark and damning. Reporters swarm, their cameras relentless. Nia and Zoe rush to Malcolm, their embrace tight with relief. Darius stands nearby, his phone still recording, a quiet triumph in his eyes. Malcolm sits at his desk, the photo of the Memphis girl beside him. He picks it up, his eyes softening, a weight lifting from his shoulders. He pins a new policy memo to the wall, its title bold, Community Policing Reforms. Outside, the city glows under a full moon, the night calm but charged with promise. This story is inspired by real-life events. If this resonates with you and you feel the need to lend a voice to this cause, hit the subscribe button.